This week I learned I may be getting too old for this vacation shit. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update. This, the last for the month of October. So hope spooky season is going well for you guys. We just got back from family vacation, and it's quite exhausting. It's one of those things where you've heard the phrase, I need a vacation from my vacation. It's more than just a phrase, just put it that way, because I am sore. A lot of walking, a lot of moving, a lot of sleeping in a bed that isn't yours and leaves you quite sore. But again, we're complaining about having too much money in these regards when you get to take a week out of the country. So guys, had some fun on the trip, but we are here today to talk about some books, and that's going to begin, like usual, by discussing what am I reading. I did finish The Last House on Neela Street by ℓ𝕤𝕤 ℙ𝕦𝕣𝕠𝕜𝕤. This is one I think is going to be very polarizing, very divisive, because it does some things that I'm not quite sure are going to work for everybody. I'm still not quite sure they work for me. But what I'm going to say by that is I admire her for going for it. I admire her for taking chances. I admire her for having some kind of horror story that didn't just feel like a carbon cut out of everything that she loved watching or reading while she was younger, because it definitely feels very fresh, very unique, and I admire, again, a lot of the decisions that she made. However, if Unreliable were a book, this would be it. Or Unreliable Narrator, that is, not just Unreliable. Unreliable Narrator was a book, it would be this. I think with this is, it's one of those where I look back on it and I say, yes, I understand it. I get it. I see what you were trying to do. I do think that a lot of people are going to have their patience tested at the beginning, because it is seriously for a good half of the book where you're like, what is even going on? What am I reading? Now, it makes sense in hindsight, but it's really going to test your patience to get there, because it's one of those things. And then when you figure out what the kind of the twist is, you may or may not buy into it. So it is very much going to be one of those books that kind of is going to vary depending upon the reader, I think. But with this, it's like I liked a lot of the twists. There was a lot of things where I thought I had early on. I thought, okay, well, this means this, and that means this, and that means this guy is this, and it means this girl is this. That is very much not the case. That is not the case at all. I did figure out some of the personality things in this. I did figure that out with a couple of the characters here. But as far as this is the antagonist, this is the protagonist, I was way off. I was way off on that. And I think she does a very good job with misdirection in that regard. So again, I don't think it'll be a book for everybody. It's going to really, again, require you to give it time, let it breathe, and just trust the process. If you can do that and the revelation, the twist kind of lands for you, then it might work. In the end, hey, you know what? You had a cat POV, and I thought that was very neat. That was a very neat idea, even if when you get to what is behind all that, it may not have the same weight for you, but it is very interesting. And again, like I said, I really respect her for taking some chances here, because I can't think of another horror book I've read that was anything like this. As far as did I like it? I mean, I did, but I won't lie and say I wasn't frustrated for a lot of it. There was very much times where I was like, am I even still reading the same book? Because some of the chapters, when it switches to POVs, I'm like, I don't even understand what's going on. But it is very much a horror mystery in that regard. I don't think this is very much going to be anything that frightens you. It's very much just a thriller mystery, I do think. So I don't know necessarily that's the best pick for spooky season, but it's enough that where I say I will give ℓ𝕤𝕤 ℙ𝕦𝕣𝕠𝕜𝕠 another try in the future, because again, I really like that she just kind of did something that I've never seen done before. And you guys might have, if you've read it and you're saying like, really? This is the first time for you? Yeah, I've never read a book that really kind of just went all out there quite like this one. And some of the things that she plays with, there's some things that Stephen King has done in the past, but she does it quite different and much more in a mysterious way, in a way that I think that the reader might not get the first time around. Now, I have a confession to make. This is the only spooky season book that I have left for this month. I didn't take it with me on vacation. I wasn't sure I'd finished Last House on Neela Street, and then I realized I only brought my Kindle, and I don't have this on my Kindle yet. So I didn't get to read that, so I had to start reading this one again. Oh no, I know, I had to. Yeah, it forced me to continue reading with this one. I've got the review copy on both digital and, of course, on physical. So I had the digital version with me on this, and I started working on this again, which is great, because this is something that, obviously, that I want to read. So I did continue with Strength of the Few. I can continue just to tell you guys it is very good. I think what this is doing that the first one didn't do for me is the setting of the first book. There's two other settings in this book, and I'll be honest, I think that I like those other two settings more. Does that make sense? I'll get into it more when I do the actual review for it. But there are two other settings outside of just the backdrop for ancient Greece, and I think that I like those both more than the main storyline. So I think that's why this is going to be the first case where I feel like, hey, I think book 2 I might like better than book 1, because with me, I'm a big believer in book 1s. Book 1s usually satisfy me enough because I just love character introductions. I love remembering how we met these characters, what drew you to them in the first place. But this is the first one where I feel like it definitely feels like it's leveled up with the second book, and it's given me a lot of those vibes I have with the middle book in ℚ𝕦𝕤𝕤. The vibe it's given me that I don't want is that I know I don't have book 3 waiting for me like I do with ℚ𝕚𝕤𝕤. So this ending's probably going to be very, very annoying, but very good. I don't know. We'll see when I get there. But yeah, I did continue with that on the trip, and good things to say. And like I said, I plan to have the review out on release day, just like I did for King Sora, which we'll talk about here in a second. But as for what am I going to read, guys, I'm going to be honest with you here. The reason I kind of set it up like this is to tell you I'm only human. I can only read so many things at a time, especially when the books are this thick. I'm starting to feel the review crush. I have several review copies. 1 or 2 I'm not even going to get to. I finished King Sora, and all 4 of these big review copies are massive. They're just massive books, and they all seem to be coming out within a few weeks of each other. Now, I did the speed run to get through King Sora because I wanted to have that review out on release day, and that was my own fault. I got that book back in like May, so that was my own fault. I started this one a little early because it was one of my most anticipated books of the year. Of course I was going to do that. I fear that because of the new ℚ𝕤𝕤𝕤 book, because of the new Empire of the Vampire book, I still am a book behind on Bound the Broken. I've got this to finish. I have a feeling this might get pushed, and it's very, very frustrating to me, especially in spooky season, to push a book. But again, I never really considered the fact that, hey, with spooky season, we have a week vacation with the family planned during the middle of all that, and I might not be able to get to read everything that I want because I had a really, really massive book and 4 smaller books, smaller by comparison to Joe Hill's book. But yeah, you do have a week with the family, and I don't have much reading time. So taking a week out of a month, yeah, it's maybe going to slow you down just a little bit. So I haven't made the decision final yet, but I'm thinking I'd like to finish this, and Empire of the Vampires book number 3 comes out here in about 2 weeks, and I'm actually going to be emceeing that deal for Jay Kristoff in Dallas. It'd be really, really ugly for me to say, yeah, I haven't even started your book yet. And I did receive a review copy. So again, with this is just there's nothing you can do about time. You just run out of it. And when these books are so damn long and you read only with your eyes, it's really, really tough to get all these things in. So I fear I might have to brush that Philip Fracassi book off until sometime early next year. Thankfully, I'm not doing horror just in October anymore, and I am filming them all over the place. So I'll try to get that in probably early if I do make that decision. Like I said, I haven't made that decision yet, but with how much I still have, just past the halfway point in this. But that's kind of what I want to focus on this week, because I would really like to finish this and be able to have time to generate my thoughts and stuff for my review. I think the 11th, November 11th, is the official release date for that. And start on Empire Up the Dawn here relatively early. Or I might put the Elementals in there. Like I said, Elementals is really, really short, so maybe I can get that in there. But yeah, it's just me admitting I can't do it, Captain. I can't get them all in there this month, I don't think. And again, I would never want to boot a spooky season book. But, it's the problems you have when you got review copies, and you can't complain that you can't get review copies and then you get them and you don't read them. I think that's a really, really poor look for a book channel such as mine. So I want to make sure I start making those more of a priority than I have been. The reason I've done that is because I said I like reading with you guys. I don't like reading review copies because you got no one to talk to about them. It does suck. But in the end, there's lots of people who would kill for that opportunity, and I feel like I'm just not reading them when I get them because reasons. I think that's a really, really poor excuse. And I want to try to do better on that. So that's why I'm kind of making this decision. But I shall be trying to finish this up this week. That is the plan. Who knows how work's going to go? You take a week off work. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but nobody does my work while I'm gone. So I'm going to have a very interesting start to the week here very soon. How about this week on the channel? While I was gone, I did have a couple of things that did release. I did my review for King Sora, and I was very, very thrilled to do it because if you guys missed it, it's going to probably be one of my favorite books of the year. It was very much expected. I think it was always probably going to be my favorite book this month. outside of it just completely just dropping the ball, it did not. I said I think this probably is my favorite Joe Hill book up to this point, and I think this is one we're going to look back on and say this is his magnus opus. This is one we're going to look back on and say, yeah, what a great book. Let me enjoy that adventure again. Lots of comments in that video of people saying they weren't even planning to give that book a try, but based off the things I said about it, they became very, very interested and went ahead and pre-ordered it or went ahead and picked it up since it has released. A very exciting time, I think, for Joe Hill fans is that he's really back on it now, and he says he wants to be putting out a book a year here at this point in his career, and that's very exciting. So he already got a book planned for release next year called The Hunger, I do believe. I was talking with his publisher earlier this week. They saw the review, and they're very happy with it and want to know that they'll get me on the list for his next release, and I'm very, very thankful for that. So again, I think the biggest compliment I can give to Joe Hill is I no longer look at him as the son of Stephen. I look at him as Joe Hill, horror author, and he's earned those stripes. He has really, really made his claim to be one of the top in the game right now. And I think that, again, if you haven't read King Sorrow and you are more of a fantasy fan with maybe just a little bit of horror, I think that's something that you might like. Horror fantasy fans will be all into that. It'll be a real easy transition for you guys because it's got a dragon in it. It's really, really cool. I liked it quite a bit. Hope people aren't kind of chased off by the length of the novel. Again, where's the fire? Take your time. Take your time. Don't plan too many books that you can't read in 1 month, I do think. I also talked about my November reading plans, which is dominated by some of those big boys. And it's one of those where I said, if I get all these in November, it'll be surprising, because I've only got 2 books right now planned for December, because I want to make sure that I give these room to breathe. And, with me with a Sun Eater book, it always takes me like 3 weeks to read a Sun Eater book. So, again, there's just not enough days in the month anymore, but that's just what happens when you schedule your books. But again, here I am telling you, where's the fire? Take your time. And I'm saying I don't know if I can get all these in a month, but that's just kind of be November, December is just kind of be 1 month for me. I've got like 4 or 5 books I plan to read in that span, and if I get them done, awesome. That'll be a neat trick. How about some next week plans, guys? It is going to be Halloween this week, so I always like to try to get out a couple of spooky vids on Halloween release week. Now, last year I did what I call a spooky reading. I did a narration, an audiobook, if you were, with some sound effects. Not really sound effects, but more like soundtrack. And I want to give credit to White Bat Audio, who did the soundtrack for that, and they're awesome. Awesome for creators, guys. White Bat Audio does incredible music for creators. All copyright free, says they will never, ever charge. If you ever get a copyright strike for the material, let them know immediately. So they are really great, and they really provided the ambiance for my reading of Telltale Heart that I did by Edgar Allan Poe last year. And that was a video that didn't really do very much last year, but this year I've seen a big, huge uptick in it. And it's because horror content seems to be evergreen. This time of year, people that are into horror want to find more horror stuff. And they're listening to my reading of Edgar Allan Poe. So I thought maybe I'll do another one this year. Don't know what I'm going to do. Don't know who I'm going to do. I don't know what author I'm going to read or what. Try to keep it something shorter, so I imagine it'll be another Poe or a Lovecraft or Robert E. Howard, something like that. Some kind of short story, I think. Something that I can get in under 15 minutes and do a nice reading of. But again, like I said, I haven't decided yet. But just due to the recent interest in that, I had a great time doing that. If you guys don't know, my dream job is to work for Audible one day. It's just I don't have enough time on my hands to do a bunch of demos for them. So these are kind of my opportunity to live that dream, I think, and do a dramatic reading of some of these books. So stay tuned. I don't know what it'll be, but that'll usually be something I do around Halloween time, I think, going forward. Another video idea I have is called The Book Was Better. This is something I planned to do a while back. I planned to call it Lost in Adaptation, and someone was like, oh, a way bigger channel than yours already has the rights to the words Lost Adaptation. I was like, forgive me, I can't peruse all of YouTube, but yeah, it's not surprising. It's not a very clever name. I mean, I figured someone's probably already grabbed that for sure. It's like I used to have a sports podcast. I want to call it Space City Sports because Houston is Space City, and of course, like 5 other people already had that name. So it's very obviously a thing that is not very original on my behalf, but it was something I wanted to do before. So I was going to call it The Book Was Better. And with this one, I'm going to kind of focus on horror movies, some horror movie adaptations of some famous horror books. And I think in most regards, the book's always going to be better. But, some cases they aren't. And when it comes to the horror genre, very rarely is a movie adaptation better than the book. But we'll talk about these things. We'll talk about why I thought the book was better. Or maybe we'll talk about, hey, maybe the book was not better. I don't know. I'm still kind of working on that. But that's kind of one that I want to kind of talk about, some adaptation of some horror books. Maybe missed the mark and exactly why the book was better. So I'll be doing our spooky reviews again over on Mike's Media Reviews. We didn't have time to get some of those gone while we were on the trip, or before we went to the trip, and get the time to get those in. You know, right before you leave a vacation, you're trying to get everything done before you go, and you just can't. And that was one that kind of fell by the wayside. But we're going to be talking about Ready or Not, going to be talking about The Substance, we'll be talking about The Monkey, and we watched The Boogeyman on the actual ship, and we'll talk about that here in a sec. But we'll be doing reviews for all those on Mike's Media Reviews, hopefully sometime early this week. Like I said, it just depends on how the return to work goes, because the return to work for my wife as an educator will probably be a big mess, and she'll probably be completely freaking gone in the evenings. But we'll see what happens. We'll try to get some of those out rolling as we do try to continue with those. Again, when we made that schedule, we didn't really dawn on us that, yeah, you're going to be out of town for a week. Probably not the best plan to plan 20 movies to watch in the month, right? How about movies? Let's talk about some TV and some movie stuff here before I go. The Welcome to Derry series does premiere tonight. Lots of people have been asking me what I think about it, because they know I am why aren't you reading that Stan short stories book? I'm like, because I don't like Stephen King fan fiction. It rarely ever works. However, why is Welcome to Derry a little different? Well, there is plenty of things in the book that weren't covered in those two movies. This is the same team put together making this prequel. So you can do this. You can do this It story with every 27 years, where Pennywise, they can kind of go backwards, they can go forwards, they can do whatever they want to do. I think it's very cool because, you know, they can show us the black spot, things that weren't actually in the theater or in the theatrical releases that are in the book. They can actually do this because there are interludes and histories and things like that that is brought up in the movie and kind of talked about, and we can actually see those things, you know, see some of those crazy events that seem to happen every catastrophe every 30 years or so. So I think it's a neat idea. Wasn't really sure how I was going to feel. Is this going to be one of those things where it's like Gotham, where it's like the Batman show with no Batman in it? It's like, this is going to be the Derry show with no Pennywise in it? Because no thanks. But Bill Skarsgård has returned. I've heard mixed things in the reviews. I think the critics got the first 5 episodes. Some have said it's great. Others say, yeah, it just feels like leftovers, you know, like stuff that they just kind of left out. They could have put like in some flashbacks. I don't know, but I've also heard it's a slow burn. So I don't know if I'm going to wait and we're just going to kind of run through it all together. But yes, I am planning to watch it. I am very excited for it. I'm very excited is the word for it, but I'm more interested than I usually would be for a King adaptation that is not really based on any of his material that is written. But there is several things that they can expand upon that are in the It novel. So fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed, because I think there is actually some runway there if they want to do this right. But it's just going to kind of depend. Are they trying to go just full-on schlock horror? Or are they trying to go social commentary? What are they trying to do here? Because if you're just going to make this a character study on the town of Derry, I can have some of that. But the story still needs to be about the friendship groups and, of course, Pennywise, the dancing clown. That needs to be the focus. Not just, hey, Derry's really creepy. Look how awful these people are. That won't hold my attention for long. But I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a chance for sure. My kids that really just love Pennywise, I don't know. I don't think if it's a slow burn series, as I've been told, I don't know if that'll really hold their attention because they want to see Pennywise doing messed up things. So better be one of those where you actually show the monster a little bit. More King adaptation, The Boogeyman. We never watched this when it came out. I don't know why. It just kind of is one of those we had on our list to do for spooky season, and we just didn't vote for it. You know, we do a voting thing there, and we never voted for it. It did make the list this year, and we did watch it while we were on our trip. I put it on my iPad, and we watched it. And it was actually kind of spooky watching it that way because we're out there in complete... If you guys have ever been on a cruise before, it's complete dark out in the ocean, right? We had a nice balcony. We're out there watching in this chair, and it's just dead silent except for... And at one point, my kid comes and he opens the door. And if you've seen the Boogeyman movie, you know there's a big thing about doors opening. It actually kind of freaked us out a little bit. But I'll say this was actually quite good. Not exactly, again, what I said with The Monkey last week. Adapting Stephen King's short stories into full-length movies is an interesting choice, and it doesn't really resemble the story at all. It's just so we can say based on the story by Stephen King, and that'll get more attention. But it was actually pretty entertaining. I mean, it was a good hour and a half. That's what I think most of these horror movies should be. Again, this is my second Sophie Thatcher movie. She was very good. Again, I had never really heard of her until this year, and it turns out we got 3 of her movies on our spooky season list here. But she was good in it. It had some legit creeps. The monster was quite freaky. It definitely studied that Conjuring playbook, the way that it kind of deals with dark corners and things like that. But they don't have rights to jump scares, I don't think. But I'm just saying that it's clear whoever made this movie was quite a fan of the Conjuring movies, as I am. So that's why it worked. We liked it. We liked it quite a bit, and it was actually surprising. We'll talk about it more at length over on Mike's Media Reviews. Lastly, we did keep our tradition of family movie night while we're on the trip because in the room we did have some on-demand movies, and we're trying to find what was good for family. And my youngest kid, obsessed with video games, like all kids his age are, right? He had never seen Wreck-It Ralph, and we saw it on there. I said, "Oh, that'd be a good one." He's like, "No, I don't want to." He watched it like 5 times on this trip. That's how much he liked it. And I'm just saying, the movie's aged well. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. I saw it for the first time when it was brand new. My firstborn was very young. He didn't really understand what was going on. He was a toddler. And we watched it a few more times over the years, and he's watched it more than me. But it's one of those, like, I think if you're Gen X, if you're of that era, I think it will have plenty of things that you like. If you were alive during the time when arcades were like it was like the hangout, I think you'll find plenty of things to like about it. A lot of the Easter eggs and stuff that they throw in, like they have those little villains, and you're trying to figure out this villain circle, and they're all trying to, you can go through it and go through it. Hey, I know what game that guy's from. That was from Mortal Kombat. That was from Street Fighter. You know, it's really cool. But it's actually a movie that has a lot of heart, I think. It's aged really well. I remember trying to watch Ralph Breaks the Internet. That's part 2. I think they waited too long. It was like 6 or 7 years later. I fell asleep, and my oldest didn't even finish it. And I was like, was it not good? He's like, yeah, it's pretty mid. So I don't know. But as far as Wreck-It Ralph, I think it's great as a standalone. It's an open and shut story. It's very good. I think it's great for families. And again, I think it's one of those, if you're, like I say, you grew up in the 80s and you spent plenty of time putting your quarter on the machine and saying, I got next, I think you'll find plenty of things to like about it. And it's fun going back and trying to figure out who all the voice talent is. Because at first it's like, is that Ray Romano? I say, no, that's Cal from Talladega Nights, ain't it? So it's fun to do that every time there's an animated movie, trying to figure out the voice talent without cheating. And when we're on this trip, we have no internet, so we have to actually use our brains again. You can't just cheat and look up all the answers. But Wreck-It Ralph, great for all ages, I think, and very, very happy to revisit that one. And I was very impressed with that. I still liked it. You guys know, the older you get, the more you just crap all over everything when it comes to movies, right? But it was fun. It was a good trip, and we were glad we took it. It was very much needed, even if I am absolutely wore out, sore, and exhausted now. I think that's when you're in your late 40s, guys. It's just the way that it's going to be. But how was you guys' week? I would love to know what you guys are up to. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you playing? Drop in the comments, guys, and let me know. I will talk to you there.